In the ancient world, gods were not ideas. They were forces. They controlled rain and drought, victory and defeat, life and death. Cities rose and fell on their favor. Kings ruled by their blessing. To question a god was to question the order of the universe itself. And yet, there came a moment in antiquity when something extraordinary happened. A god was accused, not whispered about, not doubted in secret, but formally charged, judged, and symbolically condemned by the very people who once worshipped it. This was not mythology invented centuries later. This was a real ritual grounded in legal tradition, political crisis, and desperation. And it reveals something deeply unsettling about how ancient societies truly understood divine power. The city where it happened was deeply religious. Temples dominated its skyline. Festivals marked every season. Priests held authority, rivaling generals and magistrates. The god at the center of the city's identity had protected it for generations, or so the stories claimed. Victories in war were credited to divine favor. Prosperity was seen as proof of approval. Disaster, when it came, was always blamed on human failure. Until disaster stopped making sense. It began slowly. A harvest failed. Then another. The rains came too late, or not at all. Disease spread through crowded neighborhoods. Livestock died. Military campaigns ended in humiliation. Enemies that should have been easily defeated pushed closer to the city's borders. At first, the priests responded as they always had. More sacrifices, more rituals, more prayers. Animals were slaughtered in greater numbers. Processions filled the streets. The god's statue was bathed, dressed, paraded before the people. Everything was done correctly, precisely, faithfully. Nothing changed. As suffering deepened, murmurs began to spread. Quiet at first. Dangerous murmurs. If the rituals were correct, then why was the god silent? If the people were faithful, then why were they being punished? These were not atheists asking these questions. They were believers, and that made the questions far more dangerous. In this culture, worship was not blind devotion. It was transactional. Gods and humans existed in a reciprocal relationship. The people offered sacrifices, loyalty, temples, festivals. In return, the god provided protection and prosperity. This understanding was written into prayers, hymns, and oaths. It was a contract, and contracts could be broken. The idea was unthinkable at first, but desperation forces clarity. If humans failed their obligations, priests demanded punishment. If kings failed, they were overthrown. So what happened when a god failed? The answer was radical, but not unprecedented. The city turned to law. Ancient legal systems were deeply ritualized, but they were also logical. Accusation, evidence, judgment. Even kings could be tried under certain circumstances. Even temples could be held accountable. And in rare extreme cases, gods themselves could be symbolically judged. The decision to proceed was not made lightly. Priests argued fiercely against it. To accuse the god openly risked divine wrath. But political leaders saw another danger. If faith collapsed entirely, the city would fracture. Order depended on belief, but belief now demanded explanation. A formal ritual trial was convened. The god was summoned symbolically to answer for its failures. In the central temple courtyard, priests recited the charges. They spoke of broken promises, of vows unfulfilled, of disasters that continued despite flawless observance. Omens were examined publicly. Past victories were contrasted with present humiliation. Records were read aloud, reminding everyone of the god's supposed obligations. This was not mockery. It was deadly serious. The god did not respond. Silence in this context was evidence. The ritual allowed for defense. Signs could have appeared. Omens could have shifted. Sacrificial flames could have changed color. They did not. The god remained absent, mute, unreachable. To ancient minds, this absence was not neutrality. It was guilt. The verdict was delivered. The god was found wanting. What followed was unprecedented. The cult was suspended. Offerings ceased. The temple was closed. In some accounts, the god's statue was removed from its pedestal and subjected to symbolic punishment, bound, turned away from the city, in extreme versions exiled beyond the walls, stripped of divine honors. The message was clear and terrifying. Divine authority was conditional. The city did not deny the existence of gods. It denied this god's right to rule them. The consequences were immediate. Religious power shifted overnight. Priests loyal to the condemned god lost influence. Rival cults surged forward, offering alternative protection. New gods were invited in. Old rituals were rewritten. The city's identity fractured and reformed in real time. But the most important consequence was invisible. The people had learned that gods could fail, and if gods could fail, then faith was no longer absolute. This idea did not spread openly. It was too dangerous. But it traveled quietly, through stories, through ritual variations, through philosophical debate. Other cities watched carefully. Some mocked the act as blasphemy. Others saw something revolutionary. If divine power was based on performance, then rulers could manipulate it. Priests could be challenged. Temples could be replaced. Religion became flexible, adaptable, political. Over generations, the event was softened in memory. Later, historians reframed it as a purification ritual, a renewal ceremony, a symbolic reset. Myths replaced legal language. The god was said to have left voluntarily or to have returned later in triumph. But buried beneath these revisions, inscriptions and fragments tell a different story. A god was judged and found guilty. This moment did not destroy religion, it transformed it. It marked a shift from unquestioned divine rule to negotiated belief, from fear to expectation, from submission to accountability. The ancient world did not stop believing in gods that day, but it learned that belief was not obedience. And once that lesson was learned, it could never be unlearned. Because when humans place the divine on trial, even symbolically, they redraw the boundaries of power itself. And nothing, neither throne nor temple, remains untouchable forever.